first thing I was wondering about was your life before you came to America. So what was that like?
I was born Chang Woo-seok, 1961 in Seoul, Korea. I was the oldest of four children. I lived in an extended family with my grandmother because my father was the oldest. I think when I think about my childhood in Korea, I think it was pretty typical of other kids. My mom stayed home, and my dad worked. I didn't see him very often, perhaps except maybe on Sunday. Our family, I would say, was perhaps like a middle class. My father, when he was 18, Korean War broke out, so he didn't have a chance to go to college. So he joined the military and became an officer. So he became a career military person, and then he went to night school. Then when he graduated, he got a job. I think we were probably about middle class, not really well off, but not really, poor either. We came to America because that's where my uncle was, and he kind of, he was our host. So we came over. I think growing up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, it may have been a good thing in that it allowed us to, or forced us to assimilate very, very quickly, because we had to hang with American friends. We had to, we were kind of like thrown into the fire to either survive. And I have a very, very fond memories of growing up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, despite the fact that there were a lot of challenges and it was difficult in many ways. I think though it was very, very difficult for my parents because there was very little opportunity for them as immigrants to find jobs other than, the jobs that nobody wanted. My father worked as an orderly in the hospital, cleaning patients' urine and stool and transporting. Who knew that in the future that I actually would become a doctor? But and then my mother worked as a dishwasher in a nursing home, riding bicycle, and our first car we bought was this old Volkswagen that heaters didn't work. So wintertime, all the windows would fog up. So everybody's job in the car was to keep wiping the window as a driver, my dad's driving, so we could actually see where we were going. When looking back, those are all fond memories that we have as an immigrant. If I had to name a person who I had looked up to and say was maybe my hero, I would say probably was my father. He was soft-spoken, very humble person who, just like many other Korean people, who lived in a very difficult time in Korean history. I didn't see him that much when I was in Korea growing up, but once we came to America, of course, we interacted a lot more. Now I'm looking back as a father myself, coming to this country when you're in their middle ages, not speaking the language, not, having to find a job. Now you got 4 kids you got to support and your mother and no income. You didn't have any money to bring. So I could just imagine the pressure he was under, but he never expressed that to us. He never complained. He just worked. I remember at the beginning we didn't have a car. He would bike to work. He would bike to school. He was always smiling, never complained, and always tried to provide the best for us. One thing that my parents always told us, and my father especially, was that be with God and live your life the way God wants you to live. And that's the only thing he ever told us. He didn't say I had to get straight A's. He didn't say I have to be number one. Or I had to go to medical school. So I want to be a doctor, not because my parents told me. I just did when I was a kid. I want to be a doctor. I wanted to go into medicine. And when I did get into medical school, my father said, and he had never told me this, I wanted to be a doctor too. But the Korean War broke out and I couldn't go to medical school. But he had never told me that. Not until I got into medical school. I was kind of shocked to find that out. There were times when I was going to medical school during my residency, I had felt very guilty that I was doing that. Because my parents were, they were trying to make ends meet. At the time, they had this hardware store, which really wasn't doing that well, barely enough to even pay rent. I kind of felt that inside me, even though I never shared it with other people, pressure to do something quickly to help support my family. So I was thinking, I finished my college, now I have to go to medical school. And not to mention, I had to pick the longest residency possible. I did general surgery residency, then I did 2 fellowships. Deep inside, I always felt very guilty because I felt like, here's another 3 more years that they have to wait. Another 4 years they have to wait till I finish my training to actually start to make some money to help with the family. And by the time I was able to get into that position, my father died. And that has always been, I always felt bad about that. When I finally finished my training, I was already in my early 30s, and my father just, finally he closed his business, and then he died. He never saw what I became. He never saw what I have been able to achieve. I didn't have to be a doctor. I could have been something else. But not once did my dad or my mom ever pressure me to do anything. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And that's what I, hopefully try to do with my children. I want them to do what they want to do and live their dream, not my dream. Yeah, my father was a great person, very humble man of faith, very few words. He the type of person who kind of led by example, not by words. He didn't, he was not a big talker, but very easy to be around. And he would have loved you, I'm sure. 2 of the most happiest moments in my life were when you and Matthew were born. I've always thought about bringing new life to the world is a huge responsibility and a huge blessing for us. So, what can I do to be a good parent, to make sure that you guys have a good life? And I always thought that the best way is to set a good example. And I know I have not been perfect at it. I have a lot of shortcomings. When I see, our children generation where the parents have, for us, I think the hunger and the drive to succeed drove us, made us become aggressive and do things. But now that you guys have all these things that we always wanted, that I hope you can use that to elevate to another level. And that takes courage, guts, and just saying, hey, let's just do it. And can-do attitude. Let's make it happen attitude. And that's what I think if you and Matthew can do that and have a really positive influence on life, I think it'd be great. That's what I hope for. I'm, incredibly proud of you and Matthew and younger generations. I have an incredible amount of hope in that you have potential to be great and be successful, but I don't understand the challenge that you will have. Nothing gonna come easy, but with hard work, perseverance, and strong will, hopefully you will make this world even better than what we gave you. That's what my hope is. So I'm just incredibly proud of the new generation, not just in the entertainment industry, but everywhere. You look at, medicine, business, law. I think this is what my parents and all the other first generation immigrants looked for when we came to this country of opportunity. And now we are seeing the fruits of everyone's hard work. My name is David Chang. This is my Korean American story.